She only wanted to surprise her dad, a proud black man who'd built his empire from nothing. But that night, in a quiet restaurant miles from home, a single look from a stranger changed everything. The smiles faded, the whispers began, and what should have been a father's precious moment with his little girl became a silent test of humanity. One waitress noticed what others ignored, and the choice she made would reveal far more than anyone expected. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness exposes the deepest kind of prejudice. Marcus Langston wasn't just another businessman, he was a self-made billionaire who never forgot where he came from. Born in a small southern town where opportunity was a luxury, he built his fortune brick by brick, driven by the promise he made to his mother. Never let the world tell him he was less than anyone else. Now, years later, success hadn't changed him. It had only made him more protective of the people he loved most, especially his 8-year-old daughter, Ava. To her, he wasn't the billionaire. He was just Dad, the man who made pancakes too thick and danced to old soul music in the kitchen. That night, he wanted to give her something rare. A quiet dinner, away from cameras, away from judgment. So, he picked a small town diner just off the highway, a place that looked ordinary, safe, almost forgotten. But sometimes, the most ordinary places hide the most extraordinary truths. When Marcus and Ava walked through those glass doors, he didn't expect anyone to recognize him. He didn't expect the stares to last a little too long, or the silence to fall a little too heavy. And he definitely didn't expect that one simple dinner would test everything he believed about kindness, respect, and what it really means to be seen. The diner smelled of coffee and grease, the kind of place where locals gathered every night to swap stories and forget their troubles. Marcus liked that it felt honest, unpolished, real. He and Ava slipped into a corner booth, laughing quietly as she struggled to decide between pancakes or fries. For a moment, it was perfect. Then, the mood shifted. The waitress, a young woman with tired eyes and a name tag that read Claire, approached with a polite smile. But behind her, a few heads turned. Conversations dimmed. The rhythm of the room changed, almost imperceptibly, like air being pulled from the space. Marcus felt it first. He'd felt it before the pause, the lingering looks that said, "You don't belong here." Claire greeted them warmly, but Marcus noticed the couple in the next booth exchange a look. An older man at the counter whispered something to the cook, who frowned, then shrugged. Ava didn't notice any of it. She was too busy coloring on her napkin with a crayon she'd found in her pocket. When Claire returned with their menus, she did something small, something no one else seemed to notice. She set down Ava's water first, then his. She smiled at the little girl, asked about her drawings, and treated her like any child in any family. But to the others watching, that simple act seemed to spark something ugly. A man in a baseball cap muttered loud enough for Marcus to hear, "Guess money can't buy manners." Another voice followed, lower but sharper. "Didn't know they let folks like that in here." Marcus's chest tightened, but he said nothing. He'd learned long ago that sometimes silence was the only shield he had. He smiled at Ava, pretending not to notice. But Claire noticed. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured coffee at the next table. She glanced toward Marcus, her eyes full of apology. She couldn't speak aloud. When she came back to take their order, her voice was steadier. "You two take your time," she said gently. But her kindness only drew more eyes. From behind the counter, the cook called out, his tone casual but cutting. "Hey, Claire, you sure you got the right table? Thought we were serving regulars first tonight." A few people laughed. The words stung deeper than he expected. Regulars first. It wasn't just a joke, it was a reminder. Ava looked up, confused. "Daddy? Why are they staring?" Marcus forced a smile, but his throat felt dry. "They're just curious, baby. Don't worry about it." But Claire couldn't ignore it anymore. She brought their food out herself hot, perfectly plated, with a quiet determination. When she placed Ava's plate down first, the diner went silent again. The same man at the counter shook his head and muttered, "Unbelievable." Marcus caught Claire's eye, a silent thank you passing between them. In that moment, it wasn't just a meal. It was a stand, small, defiant, human. But in places like this, kindness comes at a cost. Because as Marcus would soon discover, one person's act of decency can expose everyone else's cruelty, and the night was far from over. The laughter was gone now. The air felt thick, charged with something unspoken. Marcus could feel the shift, every eye in the diner fixed on him and his daughter, like they were intruders in someone else's story. When Claire walked by with another order, the cook called out again, louder this time. "Careful, Claire. Wouldn't want people thinking you're on their side." The words hung heavy in the air. A few customers chuckled under their breath. Ava looked up, her small voice breaking the silence. "Their side?" she asked. Marcus's heart sank. He opened his mouth to answer. But before he could, the cook added, "Maybe they should find someplace a little more suited to them." The clatter of silverware echoed across the diner. Marcus stood up slowly, calmly, but the tension in his chest was unbearable. "We'll take the food to go," he said, voice steady but trembling underneath. Claire stepped closer, defiant now. "They'll finish their meal here," she said softly. "Like anyone else." The room went still. The cook slammed his towel on the counter. "You serving them means you're done here," he snapped. Claire froze. Her eyes flicked toward Marcus, then to Ava, innocent, confused, clutching her crayon. In that split second, she made her choice. She turned back toward the counter. "Then I guess I'm done." Gasps filled the room. The cook cursed under his breath, but Claire didn't flinch. She refilled Marcus's coffee, her hands shaking but her voice strong. "No one," she said quietly, "should be made to feel small for who they are." Ava smiled. Marcus couldn't speak. He wanted to thank her, but his throat was tight, with something deeper, anger, gratitude, heartbreak, all at once. As they left the diner, the sound of whispers followed them out into the cold night. But the story wasn't over, because the next morning, what happened inside that small diner would spread far beyond those four walls, and not everyone would see Claire's choice as an act of courage. By morning, the story had already spread. Someone had filmed part of the confrontation, Claire standing her ground, refusing to back down. The clip was short, just a few seconds, but it was enough. Enough to remind people that courage doesn't always come with headlines or crowds. It can happen quietly, in a diner at midnight, in the heart of a woman who simply refused to look away. Marcus never expected attention. He didn't post, didn't seek sympathy. But when news outlets picked up the story, people learned who he was, the billionaire who sat silently while hate tried to make him small. Messages poured in, some filled with support, others with the same bitterness that started it all. Yet, through it, one truth stood out. Change doesn't start with power or wealth. It starts with people who choose to see one another as human. Ava didn't understand all of it, but weeks later, when her father asked what she remembered most about that night, she didn't mention the whispers or the stares. She said, "The lady who was brave." Marcus smiled, but his heart was heavy, because he knew that bravery shouldn't have been necessary. That night in the diner wasn't just about one family or one waitress. It was a mirror, a reflection of how far we've come and how far we still have to go. Racism doesn't always shout it, whispers in rooms that fall silent when someone different walks in. It hides behind smiles, jokes, and excuses. But sometimes, all it takes to shatter that silence is one person willing to stand up and say, "Enough." So the question isn't whether racism still exists. We already know it does. The question is, when it happens right in front of us, will we have the courage to do what Claire did?